No one noticed the bruises at first. They never did. Hidden beneath the sleeves of a faded uniform and the quiet posture of someone who had learned to take up as little space as possible, the marks told a story of pain that the world had chosen not to see. But on that cold Monday morning, inside a glass tower where power lived on the top floor, one man finally looked closely enough, and everything changed. Before the story continues, pause for a moment. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the idea that one small act of compassion can change a life forever, please take a second to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Her name was Elena Morales, and every morning before sunrise, she rode 2 buses across the city to reach the headquarters of Harrington Global Solutions. The building was a monument to success. Polished marble floors, soaring ceilings, walls of glass that reflected ambition and wealth. Elena arrived before the executives, before the managers, before the hum of computers and ringing phones. Her job was to erase all traces of yesterday, to make the place look perfect again, even though her own life was anything but. At 34, Elena carried exhaustion far older than her years. Her hands were rough from chemicals and endless scrubbing. Her back ached constantly, but she never complained. Complaining did not pay rent, did not buy groceries, did not keep the electricity on in the tiny apartment she shared with her 6-year-old son, Mateo. Every night she promised herself things would get better, and every morning she woke up knowing she had to survive just one more day. The bruises had started months ago. At first, they were small, easy to hide. Then they grew darker, angrier, blooming across her arms and shoulders like cruel fingerprints. She learned how to dress around them, how to move so no one would ask questions. People rarely did anyway. Cleaners were invisible in places like Harrington Global. As long as the floors shined and the trash disappeared, no one cared who did the work or what it cost them. That morning, Elena was assigned to the executive floor, a rare occurrence. Usually she stayed on the lower levels, but someone had called in sick and the supervisor needed coverage. The executive floor was quieter, colder somehow, as if the air itself carried authority. Elena moved carefully, pushing her cart past framed awards and photographs of smiling leaders shaking hands with politicians and celebrities. She was wiping down a long conference table when she felt it, that familiar sharp pain in her arm as she reached too far. She sucked in a breath and steadied herself, unaware that the sleeve of her uniform had slipped just enough to reveal the deep purple bruise wrapping around her forearm. That was the moment Daniel Harrington walked in. Daniel was the CEO and founder of the company, a man whose name alone could open doors. At 45, he was known for his sharp mind, relentless work ethic, and a reputation that bordered on intimidating. Employees straightened when he passed. Meetings stopped when he entered a room. He was not cruel, but he was distant, focused, a man who lived several steps ahead of everyone else. He had come in early that day, unable to sleep after another night spent staring at the ceiling of a penthouse that felt more like a hotel than a home. Success had given him everything he thought he wanted, and taken more than he ever expected. Work was the one place he felt grounded. As Daniel stepped into the conference room, Elena froze. Instinctively, she lowered her arm and stepped back, eyes fixed on the floor. She expected him to pass by without a glance. That was how it usually went. But Daniel stopped. At first he noticed the stillness, the way she seemed to shrink into herself. Then his eyes caught the edge of her sleeve, the unmistakable discoloration of skin beneath it. Years ago, before the boardrooms and the headlines, Daniel had grown up in a house where silence hid violence. He knew those marks. He had seen them on his mother, had watched her smile through pain and pretend everything was fine. Something inside him tightened. Elena felt his gaze and panic fluttered in her chest. Being noticed was dangerous. Questions led to answers, and answers led to consequences she could not afford. She mumbled an apology and tried to move past him, but Daniel spoke, not with authority, but with something softer, almost uncertain. He asked if she was okay. The question broke something in her. No one had asked her that in a long time. She shook her head quickly, insisting she was fine, that she had work to do. But Daniel didn't move aside. He didn't raise his voice. He simply waited, and in that quiet moment, the walls Elena had built began to crack. She pulled her sleeve down further and walked away, but the damage was done. Daniel stood alone in the room, staring at the table that no longer mattered. For the rest of the day, he couldn't focus. Numbers blurred, emails went unread. That single bruise haunted him more than any business problem ever had. By lunchtime, Daniel had made a decision that would shock the entire company. He called an emergency executive meeting. Word spread fast. When the CEO summoned leadership without warning, it meant something big. The board members filed into the main conference hall, whispering theories about mergers or crises. None of them expected what came next. Daniel stood at the head of the room, his expression unreadable. He spoke about success, about growth, about the responsibility that came with power. Then his voice changed. He talked about the people who made the company function, the ones who arrived before dawn and left after dark, whose names were rarely known. He spoke about dignity, about safety, about the moral failure of looking away. Then he did something no one had ever seen him do. He invited Elena into the room. She stood there trembling, surrounded by executives in tailored suits, her cleaning cart parked awkwardly by the door. She wanted to disappear. Daniel didn't expose her story. He didn't point to her bruises. Instead, he took responsibility. He announced immediate changes, a company-wide initiative to protect vulnerable employees, partnerships with local shelters and legal aid organizations, paid leave and confidential support for anyone facing domestic violence regardless of position. The room was silent. Shock rippled across the faces of men and women who had never imagined such a meeting. Daniel made it clear this was not charity, it was accountability. After that day, everything began to shift. Elena was connected, quietly and respectfully, with resources that helped her escape the situation she had been trapped in. It wasn't easy. There were nights filled with fear, mornings heavy with doubt. Healing was not a straight line. But she was no longer alone. The company followed through. Policies changed. Training sessions were held. People began to see each other differently. The cleaners were greeted by name. Small acts of kindness multiplied, and the culture slowly transformed. Months later, Elena stood in a different place. Her bruises had faded, but more importantly, so had the shame she once carried. Mateo laughed more. Their apartment felt warmer, safer. She still worked hard, but now there was hope woven into her days. Daniel, too, was changed. For the first time in years, his success felt meaningful. He had learned that leadership wasn't about distance or control. It was about seeing, truly seeing, the people right in front of you. As the story nears its end, take a moment to think about how many lives remain unseen, how many bruises are hidden beneath sleeves and silence. If this story touched your heart, if it made you feel something real, please like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps these stories reach the people who need them most. And before this video ends, leave a comment below telling us where you're watching from, or simply write, "I see you," to remind someone out there that they are not invisible. Because sometimes, all it takes is one person willing to look closely, and one brave reaction, to change everything.